So the CIO will decide its next move as early as today. Another summons request or an arrest warrant. Let's turn to Professor Song Si-ryun this morning. Welcome back, Professor Song.
Good morning.
So another President Yoon's no-show increases the likelihood that the investigative body will file a court warrant for his arrest. Now, is 3 summons requests the limit before an arrest warrant is issued?
Well, it's a customarily good number to give enough notices, but there is no legal specification that the summons is the limit. I think this has to be seen from a precedent and the more investigation into, kind of consideration into the circumstances. This is the first time that the president is being summoned like this. So I wouldn't be surprised if they go for another summon, but they cannot just say that, well, president refused, we're just not going to go ahead with this. So there is a little bit of clash between the executive branch and the investigation of the criminal nature. I mean, remember, CIO was specifically set up to investigate the presidents and the high-ranking officials. So they have to make a decision as to stand up for their authority to investigate.
So it's hard to tell what the CIO will do this time. Now, what Yoon's legal team is arguing is that the investigation body, CIO, doesn't have the right to look into the insurrection charges. Speaking from Yoon's side, is this a valid argument?
Well, there is specifications in what kind of charges that they're looking at. Some languages are specific, some languages have a kind of an overall nature. I think the CIO is saying that after the bribery cases, abuse of powers, they do have the investigative power. Remember, CIO has a consolidated investigative power because there are other branches of the government that had the jurisdictions to investigate his criminal allegations. So I think that it is pretty weak that the president is saying, well, the law doesn't say specifically insurrection. That does not going to fly well in the court point of view.
Well, Yoon's legal team also believes the Constitutional Court's ruling on the impeachment trial should proceed, and that should be completed first, not the CIO's investigation. Is that possible, or should the 2 cases proceed together?
Well, they can make an argument, but remember that the impeachment and the insurrection have 2 different jurisdictions. One is criminal, the other is constitutional.
Right.
So if they go up to the highest level, one goes to the Constitutional Court, the other goes to the Supreme Court. So there's no reason why they should go hand in hand. Now, what they're saying is that because this cause of action arises from the same set of facts, there are provisions that says that the Constitutional Court may yield to the criminal investigation. But at this point, they're not arguing that either. So I think they're just making arguments to, in my mind, delay the proceedings. But I think there's no reason why those 2 investigations and court proceedings can't go forward in parallel.
Well, we don't know what move the CIO will make today, as early as today, but isn't it solely up to the court who would issue a warrant to arrest President Yoon? How will the court make its decision based on what?
Well, you're right. First of all, CIO has to make a decision whether they would go for another summon or not, and to decide on whether to issue a warrant. And the court has to decide whether the warrant has validity. I think the court will look at the situation in a way that the constitutional scheme has allowed the CIO to be set up, and the CIO has a specific jurisdiction to look into the wrongdoings of the high-ranking officials. So invalidating the warrant probably will weaken the jurisdiction and the investigative power of CIO, and I don't think the judge or that the court want to invalidate the institutional credo of the CIO. So yes, it is a constitutional crisis in a way that the executive branch and the judicial branch is at loggerhead at this point, but we all operate under the law, and the court probably will issue a warrant at some point if the president continues to refuse.
Well, let's say CIO does file for a arrest warrant, and the court does issue an arrest warrant. What happens if his security officials block efforts by the investigation team to arrest Yoon at his residence in Yongsan? What happens then?
Well, a similar argument, I think, that the court should say that if the security forces block the execution of the validly issued warrant, then they're obstructing justice. And it's a criminal matter. I think that should be pretty clear that the CIO has the jurisdiction to investigate, and investigation has to proceed with the warrant. And if the warrant is valid, then it should not be blocked. I think the court would be very specific about having those kind of authorities not hindered by the security forces.
Alrighty, Professor Song, thank you so much for sharing your insight with us this morning. We appreciate it as always.
My pleasure. Thank you.